Okay, I want to call the Finance Committee to order. All members are present and accounted for. We need to amend the agenda. So to add discussion of resolution 2020 and 3 transfers from finance, FTE 4 and SA 29 and 30. Can I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Let's see. I'm assuming that we don't have minutes yet. Is that correct, Nikki? Yeah. Gee, what a surprise. All right, so let's move into the agenda. The first item is Resolution 2020, which deals with the swimming pool fees during fiscal year 2020. Mr. Trader is on, and is there anything you want to kick us off with, Archie?
I'd like to kick you off with the fact that it is absolutely necessary for these increases to be approved based on increased expenditures by way of the new pool, staff, maintenance, so on and so forth.
Okay, that makes sense. We have a staff report. We also have some proposed amendments to the fees. Rob, do you want to lead that discussion?
Yeah, whenever you'd like.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, and thank you to the law office for helping draft these amendments. So I entirely support the need to increase the fees for the new facility. I'm proposing to raise them even more. And the reason a few of them anyway, the reason I'm doing that is because last year around the same time, we were sent some information from actually a Ward 1 resident who had filed some information about pool fees in the area in comparable pools, even looking at ones in the county. And so overall, our fees they're very competitive in the sense that they are lower than what we see elsewhere. And I did send this to the committee information last week, I believe. I'll certainly send it out again if you can't find it. And so the amendment, if you look at Amendment 1, Director Trader's proposing to increase fees. This is for season pass for family to the pool. And so, again, one of my reasons for increasing this is I want to propose to increase for non-residents, because I don't want to have a situation where our city residents are crowded out by non-city residents. Because I believe last year, and Director Trader, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe last year I recall that the Rec and Parks will be setting a cap on total membership numbers. And so again, if our fees are too low, then we're going to be potentially seeing an influx of county residents. So along those lines, Amendment 1 and 2 deal with increasing the season pass for families even higher than proposed. So for city residents, it would go up from the proposed $200 to $240 for a family of 4. And, that is still an incredibly good deal. For non-residents, it would go up to $300 for a family pass. So $240 for a city resident or city resident family, and then $300 for non-resident family. And Amendment 3 and 4 increase only the non-resident prices. This would be a non-resident price for a season pass for youth, which for city residents, it would be proposed to be increased to $130. For non-residents, it's proposed to go up to $155. I would propose to make that $180 for non-residents. And then Amendment 4 is season pass for an adult. So this is not family, just a single and that would be, it's getting proposed to increase up to 190 for city resident with 225 for non-resident. I would propose to increase that to 240 as opposed to 225. And again, this is just based on that research that was sent last year. So those are my motivations for the amendment.
Arnett, you're on mute.
Ross, you're unmuted.
I know, I'm getting it. Yes, Sheila, go ahead.
I hope, or I would request that we take these amendments separately. I have a question for Mr. Trader. The increases that you're proposing are to allow us to cover our costs. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. These are community recreation fees. They're not in competition with private pools or for-profit pools.
Okay. Well, I'll get to the main resolution after when we get to that. But I am very concerned that we are pricing some of our residents out of the pool. I don't have a problem with adult passes, but I do have a problem with the youth pass. Amendment number 1, I think, is unnecessary. I don't have a problem with 2 and 3, but it's a considerable jump from 200, which is the proposed, to 240. It just sounds like we're gouging because we can. I think the director just said we're not in this to compete with surrounding pools. We are a municipal pool that should be accessible to everyone. So I would hope that we take these amendments separately, and that I hope that we would oppose the first amendment, which considerably increases from 160 to 240 the season passes for adults.
If I may speak, I do agree with Councilwoman Finlayson. Traditionally and historically, the pool has been used a great deal by our lower income families and children. And I think that any outstanding increase would definitely affect their ability to access the pool. So I think that the Amendment 1 is a little bit, too far, too much. And I think it will affect the low income residents and families of our communities.
So I remember many years ago when Mr. Woodard was here directing Parks and Recs, and he was proposing some fee changes, and the council proposed increasing fees even more than he had proposed. And it was a lesson in economics, which is that people are price sensitive. And we did go ahead and increase the fees above what he asked for. And in fact, membership went down. So I think what I've heard Director Trader say is these fees have been set to cover increased costs from the new pool. I am in sympathy with the notion that we can ask county residents to pay a higher share, but I guess I'm willing to go along with Alderwoman Finlayson on amendment number 1, but I'd like to give you a chance, Rob, to respond to that.
Thank you. And yeah, actually, you both raised Director Trader and Alderwoman Finlayson very good points, and I'm finding myself agreeing with you. I certainly don't want to price out any city residents by primary goal with this is simply to, I guess my most important goal anyway out of this is really make sure we that the city residents who have paid for this don't get crowded out by the non-residents. That's mine. But then again, if Director Trader has any information about if you think the non-resident would be too high, if you think that would drive down revenue. But we're also, it might be hard to say since it's a new facility. We don't know how much it's going to be. I think it's going to be an amazing facility that's going to be attracting people to it personally. But time will tell.
Alderman Payne?
Yeah, Ross, I'm listening to all this, but I can't find 2020 anywhere here, and I see what all these things are that you're talking about. When did we receive?
I sent them to you in an email not too long ago, maybe 10 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes ago. I can resend it to you if you like.
It's also on the agenda you can find online.
It was on yesterday's agenda.
Nope, don't have it.
You muted me?
I got Ross sending it to you saying he'd received it. There's nothing else in that thread. Wait a minute. Okay. I've got to wait to download these so I can see what it is. Okay, got it.
All right. So Alderwoman Finlayson suggested we take these one by one. I think we are starting to come to a consensus. Can we take Amendment 1, which is to move from the proposed city resident fee of $200 for a family of 4 to $240? That's the amendment. Is it a sense of the committee to not accept, and I think Rob has also accepted, not accept that amendment?
So do we need a motion to oppose amendment number 1?
Do you want, excuse me, do you want to see the amendments on the screen?
I think you just vote on the amendment.
Yeah, why don't we we'll vote down, by voice vote. All those in favor of Amendment 1 signify by saying aye, opposed by no.
Mr. Chair, I just made a motion to oppose amendment number 1.
Yes.
Why do we do that? Why don't we just vote on amendment number 1?
That's what we are doing.
Well, you
We're
don't have
voting, and the motion, okay.
Need a second. We have a motion to oppose Amendment 1. Fred, do you second that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we
All
need
right.
it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of not accepting Amendment number 1 signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right. Amendment number 2. Can we take 2 and 3 at the same time, since there seems to be some agreement on that? Both of those would have the impact of raising the fees for non-residents, but leaving the fee for city and youth the same as proposed. Yeah, there you go. So these are the proposed amendments. Amendment 2 increases the non-resident fee for a family of 4, and Amendment 3 increases the non-resident youth fee. Any discussion?
No, not beyond what we've already said.
All right, is there a motion to accept amendments 2 and 3?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Amendment number 4, again, is to increase the fee for non-resident. Believe the recommended increase for city residents the same for an adult. Is there a motion to accept this amendment?
Move
So
to
moved.
accept amendment 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now we need a motion for the Finance Committee recommendation to the council at large to accept Resolution 2020 with 3 Finance Committee amendments.
Discussion.
Yes. Well, we need a motion first.
So moved.
I see pondering.
I'll
Can
move.
we second it and then discuss it, Sheila?
Okay, I'll second it for the sake of discussion only.
All right. So now we have a motion before us to recommend the swimming pool fees from Resolution 2020 with 3 proposed Finance Committee amendments. And Alderwoman Finlayson, you're pondering.
Yes, I am concerned, looking at the resolution, the chart, with the new pricing, the child daily rate is going from $4 to $5 a day. I assume the third column is out of city. What is the third column?
The non-resident?
Non-resident. Okay. I am very concerned about raising the daily rate from $4 to $5 for children. I think Director Trader spoke to the population that we don't want to leave out in our new pool. And it's going to be a beautiful new pool, and we want it to be accessible to everyone. So I can, live with all the other rates, but I cannot live with increasing the rate for the children and the seniors. In fact, even $1 is hard to come by for some of our young people. And so I think we should do whatever we can to make our pool accessible to everyone. So if we increase all of the other increases, Mr. Trader and City Manager Gerald, what would that do to the cost of covering the pool? Keeping in mind that we just endorsed 3 amendments that will generate additional revenue if we pass this resolution as amended. So the question is, let me simplify it. We just approved these 3 amendments that will increase revenue for the pool. Can we afford to keep the daily rate for children and seniors at $4 without operating at a loss?
Well,
Can you address that, please?
yes, I don't think that it would be that significant by maintaining a $4 entry fee for children. I don't think so. I don't think it would affect us dramatically, or for the adults, seniors to sustain the previous cost entry fee.
Can I ask Director Trader, do you have at your fingertips the total number of daily child passes and senior passes that you sold last year or during any period of time, so we would know how many dollars this represents?
I do not. At this time, I can get them at a later tomorrow or later today, but I don't have them right now.
Could I ask the finance director to also look at the increases for the season passes that we just proposed the amendments for?
Yes, we'll have to get a schedule of the passes that have been issued, both daily and annual passes that, or seasonal passes that were sold in the last year. So we have some kind of idea how many people are coming to the pool. And I'll have to get that from Rec and Park. So yeah, we can, but it's not going to be quick. Not this instant.
I have a question about the construction of the resolution itself, because someone, I think it was you, Sheila, referred to seniors. My label is adult. It doesn't distinguish seniors versus adults. Is the third column referring to adults?
No, it's in the first column.
Under the first column where it says child, and then it's 12 and under,
I
and
see.
senior 62 plus.
Okay, so what is the difference between the two columns?
Resident and non-resident is what I was just told.
Okay, I see.
If you look at the staff report, we were able to format that a little bit differently, so it's a bit easier to use. If you could open,
Right, I have it.
can you open up the staff report?
Yes,
Because it's
I
hard
have.
to read. It's hard to read the resolution.
Can you scroll down?
Go ahead. Which one did you need, the staff report or the actual resolution?
Yeah, the staff report. Just yeah, there you go. Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So Sheila, the thrust of your amendment is to not change, certainly the one for children and seniors. So leave both of those at $4. Are you recommending anything for adults, which go from 5 to 6 and non-resident 5 to 10?
I can live with that if we
Right.
will agree to adjust the fare for the kids. I hadn't thought about the non-resident, and maybe, I think going from $4 to $7 is kind of a jump for them also. I'd entertain a compromise on that one.
But I think,
But my major thrust would be the child city resident, maintaining that as a $4 daily pass.
Did I hear someone else wanting to speak?
yes, I think the non-resident child coming from outside of Annapolis may have privy to an economic base that's a little more conducive, for coming to a pool long distance, and they probably would be able to incur that type of increase based on their family structure and family income and economic conditions.
Rob, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, not in particular.
All right, so the thrust of the amendment, your amendment, Sheila, is to leave child and senior city resident at $4.
Correct.
Is that the motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
Is there a second?
No, not from me. I think it's a reasonable increase for a much nicer facility.
I will second it. I'm going to rely on the director's sense that with these other increases, we can leave that one there. The real, I think the real intent is to make sure we can operate the pool without having a loss. And with the other changes, I think we can, and we can always come back later on if we find out things aren't working and think about these fees again. So we have 4 Finance Committee amendments. Director Gerald.
Yeah, just recall that these fees at best are going to be for the last 2 weeks of June if we're able to open the pool in June. But what we'll do is we'll, whatever comes out of this discussion, we can update the fee schedule to reflect these.
And another perspective I like to say is that we're in the middle of a recession, a COVID-19. The effects on our economy is going to be long lasting and ongoing. And it's really going to hit the low income community even harder. So I think we need to consider that.
Well, if you think it's unreasonable, how come it's proposed? I mean,
Pardon me?
These were put together before we ever envisioned the COVID becoming what it is today.
Yes. That's
all right.
a good point.
One of the basis of my opposition is the recommendation of the guy that knows more than we do about this. That is, if you're telling us now that maybe we shouldn't increase it, then I'm fine with that. You know more than I do.
All right. So we have before us a motion for a Fourth Amendment, which is to leave the child and senior pass for city residents the same as it is now at $4. It has been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this amendment to leave child and senior city resident at $4 signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, ayes have it. Now we have before us Resolution 2020 with 4 Finance Committee amendments, and we have Takia's hand up.
Sorry, before you move on, Alderman Arnett, how did you vote for the motion to oppose amendment number 1?
I voted in favor of opposing amendment number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a recommendation that the Finance Committee support Resolution 2020 as amended.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. All right. Director Trader, I think we took care of your need.
Thank you, Chairman Ross and Finance Committee. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. So now we want to move on to these, which I've now lost.
Can we put them up? Because I don't have them.
All right. Well, then let's go to the, what's happening here?
Check your emails. I sent them to you when the meeting started.
Yeah, 27, 20, there are 3 of them, right?
Yes.
Those I got.
What's happening? Agendas. There we go. I'm having problems. All right, so now we're going back to the agenda, which is to hear from the Office of the Mayor.
Mr. Chair, we're not taking the essays or FTs?
Oh, I thought you asked that we put that at the end because you didn't have them.
Well, I do have them, but it's up to you. I do have.
I'll ask the finance director. I think we can take care of these fairly quickly, and also ask Susie indulgence for a few more minutes before we get to her presentation. Is that the sense of the committee?
If we could, only because we have directors that are waiting to testify for those.
All right. So let's take FT 4-20, which is for Public Works, and that's salaries and benefits to contract services.
Correct. This fund transfer was requested by Public Works. I think it was discussed this morning about the fact that they didn't have enough in their rent budget line item to cover the rent for, I don't remember, it was a Gorman Street, Marcia? Mm-hmm. Yeah, enough rent for Gorman Street. So they're trying to move some of their ex appropriations from that they've got in their salaries budget from turnover down to that line item so they can cover it this year. And the dollar amount is $134,500.
Question.
Yes.
And in reading the description, it says for mold remediation and emergency repairs?
No, I think we're on FT 4-20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
FT4 funds transfer.
It says to pay for an increase in rent for 145 Gorman Street that was erroneously missed during the budget process and
Oh, yeah.
paid for anticipated contractual services for mold remediation and emergency.
Correct. Also some funds for those purposes. And I'll ask Marcia to speak to that specifically.
Okay, I'm happy to speak to that. So the rent for 145 Gorman Street, it was just the increase that was left out, and that was and the additional common area maintenance expenses. That was about $26,000. So as you remember, we added a couple new positions, and we had a vacancy. The supervisor retired, so we had some vacancies that took some time to fill. We had new positions filled. We had to contract some work out that might have been able to have been performed with our current staff that we have now, but we couldn't because those positions were unfilled. But there were some other unexpected expenses that I'll go over really briefly. There aren't that many, but at 145 Gorman Street, I'm sure you've noticed we've added handicap doors and a card reader. That was $8,500. The heat detector had to be replaced. It kept calling the fire department to come. That was $4,300. There was a mold problem at Pitt Moyer. That was an additional $23,000. The fire station doors, there's big rolling doors. They suffered some damage, and that was $24,000. We had a fire suppression, water line, and transportation. That was $17,000. And all the HVAC controls at city buildings, the expense of that was $22,000. So we had some unexpected expenses, and also the fact that we couldn't use staff to perform some of them because we just didn't have the positions filled.
So this is not new money. We're just transferring money from the salaries and benefits line to where we need it. Yes.
When you say it's not new money, no, we're using unused current appropriations to cover these other expenses.
Yes.
That some of the things on this list are new and shouldn't reoccur next year.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve FT 420.
Is there a second?
Well, I can't get, the only thing that my iPad says is cannot, I can't get them. So I don't know what I'm voting on.
We're voting on a fund transfer within DPW, moving money from salaries down to contractual services, a total amount of $134,500, so that it can cover the things that Marcia just spoke about.
Well, fine, but I keep, cannot download attachment is what keeps popping up when I try to, you know.
It's on the screen now if you want to take a look.
Dog ate it.
Can you tell the mailman just came? All right. Put it down.
Alderman Payon, you're able to actually, on your phone, you can actually kind of pinch in and zoom in too, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready on.
Do you second the motion to approve this, Fred?
Yes.
All right. With no further discussion, all in favor of approving FT4, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to SA 2920, MTA Capital Grant.
Yes, excuse me. This is supplemental allocation, asking for $618,286 and $86,464. Oh wait, there's I'm going to have Katie's help with this. The two numbers don't match what's in the explanation. And I assume that those total, less our 10% is what's up in the appropriation. Katie, can you add to this?
So we had our grant accountant put this one together. I will divert to Mr. Gordon. I apologize.
Is it okay to speak?
Yep.
That is a misprint. It should have been 86,464 in the explanation. I would also add that in the explanation, after the second sentence, a 10% match is required. That match would be for the replacement of the vehicles and will come from the city fleet manager's budget.
Right.
The last sentence, ADOT will pay for the match from its administrative contract services. Add to that for the office furniture. So those funds are coming from two different sources.
Okay.
All right, does everyone on the Finance Committee understand this essay? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there further discussion? Finance Director, do we have the corrections that Director Gordon mentioned? Will that be in the final version?
What I'll do is we'll change the printing on that form and then we'll circulate it for signatures. Most of these are sitting here on my desk for signatures because not everyone is around to sign right now. So it'll make the rounds and we'll make that change before we send it.
All right. Is the committee ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right. Moving on to SA 3020 from Planning and Zoning. Dr. Nash was here at least.
I can give you a quick rundown. It's a supplemental appropriation for $13,933 to spend a contribution made by Bemby Beach Partnership for a traffic study. And now I'll let you talk to Sally.
Sally here? Did she give up on us?
She's there. She's muted right now.
Sorry, is it my turn?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, my internet went out at just the right moment.
Goodness.
So I missed the last couple of minutes. What were you just asking? What the purpose of the transfer?
Specifics about what you're doing with the money.
Okay, so this is for a project that's been going on for many years. The development off Bemby Beach Road, now called Chesapeake Grove. We've asked them to do a brand new traffic study because it's been so long since the last one. Of course, when we asked them this, there wasn't the coronavirus. So now it looks like they probably won't be able to do the traffic study until September, but this was already in the works. So that's why you have it in front of you.
Any discussion from the committee? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I just, this is, if I could just speak up for a minute, this is in Ward 7. I do want to thank Dr. Nash for moving forward with it. I think it's, so my residents are really concerned about traffic out there. Probably doesn't need to be stated out on the neck. Dr. Nash, just wanted to check, will they be factored in the development projects out there that are proposed, including the potential Lidl and the Bay Village potential phase 2 project out there?
They will include the Lidl because that's been approved. The Bay Village, not the one where we don't have the application for it yet, that they wouldn't include that. But they would include the part that's under construction.
Okay, and you said the study probably wouldn't start till September?
Correct. until after school starts again, I should say,
So-
assuming school starts in September.
So this brings up another issue then. If we are going to pay for the study and we're not going to pay for it until September, you might want to make sure that it's encumbered from your budget before the end of this year. Otherwise, this whole process doesn't help you at all.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the information. I just want to make sure they're not going to do their traffic study during COVID.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good deal. There are no problems.
Thank you.
All right, I can't remember. Did we have a motion and a second from the committee?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nash. Jody, you did raise the question of signatures. Now, how are we going to handle that?
So I'm going to take these upstairs. I already sent the fund transfer up to David's desk and the city manager's desk. I'm sorry. And I don't know if it's gone then to the mayor or not. And these two will go up now as I edit that other one. And I'll put it in his inbox, and then we'll get the signatures moving around. And then once we're done with the mayor, I can give it to Takia, and she can figure out how to get your signature on the forms.
Is the city attorney on? I was going to say that for these actions, these three actions, I would certainly authorize you putting my initials, RHA, Roman numeral 3, and the date, because, with this new environment, I think that's fine for these three to just go ahead and sign for me.
We'll take care of it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think we are now ready to get back to the regular agenda and the office of the mayor.
So soon?
I know. We're only 45 minutes into our 2 hours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Good afternoon.
I should say just before we talk about the budget, that we're proceeding normally on signatures for things. The city manager signs and then the mayor signs, and then we return them to the city clerk. That is a fairly normal routine that just has continued. So it's not a problem. It gets to us, gets to the city manager, gets to the mayor, it gets returned to the clerk. In fact, I gave Takia some today to return. I'm looking at the page in the budget that says Mayor's Office Budget Summary. I think that is a exact capture of what we are proposing for our budget. And I want to make the point that our budget is more or less a flat line. And in that budget, our contribution to the needs was we gave up one position in the mayor's office. So you'll notice that in the salaries and benefits, we're down there. And it really is whether or not you have questions. It's not complicated. You can see the spending that we've done over the last couple of years. And we're pretty much either less or approximating where we were last year and the year before. So it really would be whether you have questions. The PEG funds are also under the budget of the mayor's office. So if you have any questions about that as well, but there's nothing very complicated here. There's nothing new here except for the reduction in one staff member.
So I don't know if you had the opportunity I'll get to you, Sheila, to see the wonderful presentation we had by Public Works this morning, but they followed the performance measure format, and it is noteworthy that we don't have performance measures for everyone, and we certainly don't from the mayor's office. So I'm wondering what the thinking is on that. And also, as I look at the salary of the positions, I see you down from 19 to 17. That's down 2, although I'm trying to figure out, okay, so Arts and Veterans Liaison is down, and then Development slash Events Specialist is down 1. So I'm kind of curious about that.
The economic policy, I'm not sure what you're saying when you're saying down. I'm looking at that same page also.
Page 70.
Yes.
It says eliminated for development event specialist.
Isn't that the event specialist, Felicia, moving over to city manager?
Yes, I'm sorry, the special events. Felicia has been in the mayor's budget. She is transferred to the city manager's budget.
Okay. All right, that explains that.
Right. Is there another one there that I'm not seeing?
No, that was, so the mayor's office.
Susie, the other one is the one that Max was filling that was proposed to be a grant, and that was cut. That was part of the cuts that we.
That's what I was saying is we're down one position.
Yeah. Right. So I want to know, as a disabled veteran of wartime, who's representing me now?
Hillary.
Okay. Well, good.
Hillary has that assignment.
I think very highly of Hillary, so that's good news.
Right, thank you.
All right, goals and objectives for the office of the mayor.
Yes.
Is there a reason why we don't have something like that for performance measures?
Because we're not part of we're the executive office. We're not part of the administration. So I don't do performance evaluations, and we don't do that process that is assigned to the administration.
Well, I think that is an answer, but I think it would be very helpful for everyone if there was an enunciation of that, but I'll leave that open for discussion with my colleagues. Sheila, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was going to ask, first question was about the org chart. If we're going to get a corrected org chart, because we noticed yesterday that one that's before us is not correct. And my other question was going to be about the position that you have already talked about. But Ross, to your point, I think it would benefit the mayor to speak to his goals and the whole concept of one Annapolis, and, you know, to justify his budget through the programs that he would like to see implemented. So I think absolutely the mayor's office should provide us with some, maybe not measurements as far as evaluating people and that kind of thing, but simply to get the message out about the purpose and the intent.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know, Alderman Payon, whether you have any thoughts along this line or not.
No, not right now. Maybe we'll discuss.
So essentially, the presentation from the office of the mayor is what you see is what you get. Is there any questions about any of the dollar amounts in table on page 27 from the committee?
Well, I've got some questions. A question. It's not about page 27, but what are the duties of the economic policy analyst?
The duties of the economic analyst, which is a assigned title from when the mayor became the mayor. I've never thought it's been exactly accurate. I would say the more accurate title would be special projects. What that person does is work with the mayor on a daily basis on the priority projects that he's working on within the city and his proposals. I know that title has been misleading from the beginning, and I've actually started the process of talking with Trish about changing it, because I think it's to be frank, I think it looks like it may be somebody, in the economic development staff, and it shouldn't be referred to as that same assignment.
Well, I agree. You really ought to change that because I've never received analysis from.
Right. And I agree with that. And as I said, I've already started the process of changing it, but a lot keeps happening. And the HR department, this is really low on the priority at the moment, as you would imagine.
I understand that. I mean, the function's more important than the title for sure, but okay.
But may I suggest to the committee, maybe we can ask Takia to put this down as a parking lot issue that we can come back to in our report to the council? Heads shake.
Parking lot issue?
Agreed, yes.
Yeah. So each year, Fred, if you'll recall, we put various things on the parking lot that we report out to the council, issues that we took up but didn't take any action on, but thought there might be.
I understand. I wasn't familiar with the term.
Yeah.
Let's not confuse parking with this. Big enough issue in and of itself.
Different kind of parking lot.
Yes. So
Yes.
Are there any other questions for the mayor's office?
None from me.
I do have another question about, and I'm looking at page 71 under the budget summary. And I was looking to see if salary had been impacted any way, because I think we're still in negotiations with the unions. And even though none of these positions are union members, they all have the Me Too clause. But I came across the contractual services, and that has increased by 15,000. Who's in that category?
The line item that says contractual services is our entire video operation, that we have the studio and the contracts with that. It also includes our cell phones, and it includes postage, and there's a dollar amount for any contracts that come up. So, but that's really, that line item is our video capability.
Okay. Thank you.
So from time to time, David and Jody, we've been talking about the line item budget. This would be one where it would be helpful to have more detail other than salaries, benefits, contracts, supplies, because it would be good to know, to have an answer to the question that Sheila asked. And
Correct. I agree. And it's on the way. We have to have a time to review it after this meeting is over.
all right, thank you. I'm not trying to bug, but it just, as it inspired, that question inspired that comment. Any other questions before we?
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you under any of these if you'd like me to. I mean, I can tell you what goes into the categories.
Well, no, because when we're doing our deliberations and we do them individually and then collectively, each of us are going off and looking at the detail as suits our inquiry. So telling us orally isn't what I was looking for. I was actually looking for a more detailed breakout in the line item budget. And I've been assured by both the finance director and the city manager that's forthcoming, and that's good enough for me.
Okay.
Ellie or Rob, did you have any other questions for the mayor's office? All right.
He's right here if I need to ask any.
All right. Unless there's anything else, I think we're done with the mayor's office on the agenda. Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Next on the agenda is the city manager's office. We have the city manager here.
I am here, and I provided a sheet, so hopefully you have that. I'm not sure. I sent it to Kia. I
sent it at the beginning of the meeting.
And she can put it up on the screen if that's helpful. Just
Julian's working on that right now.
Did you see it, Takia?
Yes, I sent it at the beginning of the meeting, but Julian's working on putting it on the screen right now.
Okay. So.
Oh, man.
So it doesn't follow the format that Marcia used, but it's very simple. So I feel like I own all of the performance measures that all of the departments own. So I've just got my own personal goals for the job. These are the same goals I had when you all approved me for the position. So the first is to maintain, and this is from back in February, so it's a little optimistic, but to improve or maintain the financial condition and stability that we've been able to accomplish over the last 2 years, to keep that same momentum going as best as we possibly can. And obviously we've hit a bump in the road, and that's going to be difficult, but that is one of my 3 main priorities. Is I've been through the bad times back in 2010, 2011. Don't want to go back there. The city's come a long way in these last couple of years under Teresa's leadership, and I just want to maintain that. So the second is to support the community policing initiative that Chief Jackson brings. He was hired to bring that to the city. I think that's really, really important for the city to fully implement that initiative. And so anything that I can possibly do to support Chief Jackson, I'm going to do on the city manager. To improve the performance, improve the standing of the police department. And then the last is we've got a lot of capital projects, a lot of big projects coming up over the next 5 years. Hopefully this is one of the strengths that I bring to the position, but to make sure that all of those projects are implemented properly, get the attention that they need, and do them on time and within budget, and in the high quality manner that they need to be done. So those are the 3 goals that I have. But of course, all of as I mentioned, all the performance measures and all the goals of the departments, I co-own with them, and we'll pursue all of those. So moving on to the personnel, and if you could just move the screen down a little bit. So there's 5 of us. There's soon to be 5 of us. There's 2 of us right now, Lynn Farrell and I. The proposal is to move Felicia from the mayor's office to city manager because she interfaces and works directly with all of the departments. It seemed like a better fit. That's not a political position. That's a position that coordinates all of the special events that happen in the city. So I think that makes good sense. The other one is to disestablish OEP. Move 2 of the people to the city manager's office, and move 1 person, the urban forester, to planning and zoning. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the Racine's position would be half-time general fund and half-time watershed restoration, because she's very heavily involved with the MS4 program. So that part of her time should be paid for from the watershed restoration fund. Here's the breakdown of the supplies and other. Is you'll see a huge increase in the number from last year. The training and education and dues and memberships haven't changed.
David, excuse me. Can we get everybody to mute, because there's a lot of background noise?
15 minutes early.
If you're trying to watch it on another device, that's going to be the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that better?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay. So moving down to the breakdown of the supplies and others, that was the only salaries and supplies of others. It's these items, as I was mentioning, the training and education dues and memberships, I think are exactly the same as they were with 2 people, but it's going to be for 5 people. Special projects is just that little pot of money that I will be able to do, and who knows what that's going to be. I have no plans for that right now, but if something comes up that needs a little bit of funding, that provides that. Felicia gets $57,000 of special events money each year, so that fund just transfers over. And you'll recall when we were talking about the CIP yesterday, there was $50,000 in the Hillman Garage CIP project. There's actually 1.55 million. 1.5 million was going to be from the Resiliency Authority, so that's taken out. This 50,000 that was appropriated is going to move to operating because it was going to be pay-go anyway, and that's for CDOT coordination. So what I intend to do with that, since this is a P3 project, as long as it stays a P3 project, is we're going to need somebody to do a lot of public outreach, pull the public into the process that we're going to go through both for Hillman Garage and for City Dock as far as public outreach, public education, public input into the projects. And so I intend to hire an independent consultant to help with that whole process. I think it'll pay big dividends as far as pulling all of our residents and businesses into that process. So that's the intention. As far as, if you could scroll down a little bit more, as far as what we hope to do with establishing a deputy city manager for resilience and sustainability, we have a whole bunch of responsibilities for that job that are going to be in the position description when you see that come forward as legislation. But these are some of the high level goals that I have for that position, and why it makes sense to me to move that from a department head or office manager position to a deputy city manager. So the first is to look across the whole city and make sure that resilience considerations and factors are taken into account in all the decisions and actions that we make in the city departments. In other words, it adds that lens of resilience to everything that we do. That needs to be at a higher level. It would be almost impossible to have that happen if it was an office manager or department head. But by having that in the city manager's office, I think that allows that sort of authority to allow that to happen. We need to increase public outreach and education about resilience, environmental protection. Again, raising the level of that position will allow that to happen more effectively. The next one is sort of what I already talked about, raise the profile of those programs within the city. Ensure that there's an independent review of projects. I think that's one of the key features of this is these projects go through mostly public works and planning. This allows an independent review at a high level of the government to ensure that we're getting all of the things that we need to get out of this, get the stormwater management at the high level that should be, and getting other things that need to be considered from each of these projects. And then lastly is that she does this already, the position does it already, but even more so to be the ombudsman and the conduit for all the environmental groups that are out there into the city to make sure that their concerns and their interests are addressed and are understood. So again, there's a lot of other things that will be in the position description that position will have, but I think these are the key things that will benefit from moving it from an office or department up to a deputy city manager. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for that. Alderman Savage, I don't know if you're still on, but if you are, it was item 4, and I'm sure we're going to get a chance to talk about this when we get the legislation actually making these reorganizational changes. But it was always one of my concerns when we were debating between office and department that there be some kind of signature authority as projects are processed through the city operations. And I'm not sure if you see number 4 as giving this position direct input into that approval process or not, but that's certainly one of the things I'd like to discuss when we get the legislation. But otherwise, I like the sounds of everything that you gave us, David, so I appreciate that. Alderwoman Finlayson?
Yes, I guess I'm a little concerned and confused because I thought we said yesterday we were not going to accept proposals that were not approved already. And we have our city manager outlining a change to our city organizational chart prior to it being approved. Now, I know that this is a hot button issue, could potentially be a campaign issue. So I'm well aware of it and the politicizing of it, which is part of what concerns me. To create another deputy or we don't have a deputy. And to create a deputy for resilience and sustainability would beg the question of what other deputies do we need? Because I contend that we would need a deputy for public safety, because surely we recognize the value and the importance of public safety and keeping that in the forefront. And since the community has given it its number one concern and area of pending support, I would think that we would do that. And I lay that as an example, not to suggest that we move in that direction, but if we're going to move in one direction with just one area, then we need to look at everything. And I'm not sure that we're doing this. We know that the mayor had attempted last year to reorganize unsuccessfully. We know that members of the council have attempted to reorganize unsuccessfully. And this really feels like kind of a backdoor way of getting this reorganization done. So I just need to understand which direction we're going in. Are we going to accept proposals that are just proposals? Or are we dealing with the facts and the way things are until the city council sees fit to make code changes?
So I guess I would look for input from Alderman Payon, Alderman Tierney, and Alderman Savage. I hear your point, Sheila, and I'm not sure how to respond to it. I guess my initial reaction is that this has been a proposal for a while, and I hadn't heard a lot of pushback opposing it. I'm a little disappointed, Sheila, because I thought you were going to propose a deputy for community caring services.
Well, that's a whole nother issue, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But Mr. Chair, I'm posing this to you because you're the one yesterday who said we are going to not accept proposals, but only what's in the code right now. And so, this discussion has been going on, no question, but it's been going on behind the scenes, not in an open discussion. In the last council meeting that we had face to face, I remember City Attorney Lyle saying, this is a proposal. Why are we having this discussion? It is not a resolution. It is not an ordinance. It is not in play in any form or fashion. That's my word. So anyway, are we going to accept now, proposals that people bring, or are we going to accept what the code outlines for us to do and what should be?
So I have a suggestion, but Alderman Payon has his hand up and he needs to take himself off of mute, and then Alderwoman Tierney. Fred?
Yeah, thank you. I had a whole big lecture I'd already given when I was on mute. Actually, I think Sheila's absolutely right. I have no intention of voting what might be, and that's what you're talking about here. I'm going to deal with the facts in front of us, and we'll talk about doing what we need to do if and when the reorganization passes the council. I think it's pointless. I think we're putting money into a department or departments, depending on what else we hear, that simply exists right now, and which means that money is going to be left over. And hey, maybe it'll be spent on other things by that department. That is not our intention. Even if we do vote in favor of this, it makes no sense to do anything other than what Alderwoman Finlayson, and that is we deal with what's in front of us, period. And you know, creating positions, that's not our job. That's not what the Finance Committee does. We you know, we can deal with budget transfers down the road or whatever is needed to accommodate what the council does. Not now, not in the budget.
Alderwoman Tierney, and then I'll get to you, Jody.
Yeah, just my first is a commentary, and the second is a budget question relating to it. I think that we should have learned our lesson from last year, where we convoluted a vote for the budget was a vote for a position suggestion, and it's just the optics are just. It can't help but be political then. It's, you know, a vote for the budget should be a vote for the budget, not for a reorganizational change, however much merit it may have. And speaking of merit, David, is this funded by money we put in last year for resiliency? Where's this money coming from again? The 1.5, we had 1.5 in for Hillman sort of as a plan B, and then we had money in for resiliency. Is that where we're getting this money from for this position?
So there's no cost impact due to this proposal.
Oh, I know.
So these are existing positions. There's no additional positions that are recommended from this. This is a movement, a reorganization only, not a creation of additional positions. So regarding just the one line item, the city dock coordination, $50,000. So that was money that was in the Hillman Garage CIP last year.
Right.
So it's not required for that. That was going to be pay-go. And so, I mean, it's still necessary because there still needs to be that coordination. So all we're doing is we're moving out of the CIP because there's no way to capitalize that money. So it shouldn't be in the CIP. It was going to be pay-go money anyway. So we're just moving into the operating budget to allow that coordination work to be done.
Okay, because I didn't understand that we could transfer money from the capital budget to the operational budget. I didn't understand.
It's all pay-go. It's not bond funded. It's pay-go, so it can be moved.
Okay.
All right. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I do want to commend the city manager for developing this idea, and I think it really does help to bridge the divide that we had coming out of last year's budget. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a hybrid between what was being proposed by the mayor and the city manager last year and myself and what some of the community were proposing. And I think it really does address the various concerns that were out there. And I do, you know, one of the concerns we had last year with the reorganization was that putting those duties into the mayor's office, that it would politicize things. And so I think this proposal works to depoliticize it by putting it into the city manager's office. And I do like the way that it would allow these programs, I think, differ from a lot of the other programs that are in the city, even in terms of the community services that was mentioned, in that these programs really do impact nearly every single department. I used to do the sustainability work for the city, and I can say that from firsthand experience. I was working with every department on these issues, and I think by elevating this, you're going to get a much more effective implementation. It also helps by raising the resiliency, leveraging us for funding, which we know is going to be out there. Well, hopefully after this COVID, it'll still be there, but to deal with the resiliency issues, it really makes us, I think, the leader in the region on those efforts. I mean, I do hear you in terms of the colleagues, in terms of elevating public safety and those other community services. But again, it's a reorganization. You're not creating any new positions per se. You're shifting them around to try to get a better function of an organization. And regarding the funding, as the city manager said, it's cost neutral, but I also think it's not necessarily accurate to say that the committee doesn't deal with these kind of questions, because personnel questions are always coming up. I mean, the mayor's office just spoke about removing funding for an entire position. That's something the committee deals with, be it eliminating funding for a position or shifting around. It's always been on there. I think one of but I certainly can sympathize with the desire to have more of a discussion about this, and I think we can have those on various committee levels. But I'm definitely in support of this and think it would improve things, address many of the longstanding concerns we've heard in the community.
So I agree, obviously, with my two colleagues on the Finance Committee. This isn't the structure we have in place now. I have two different questions, and I'm not sure the first one is going to be in time, but I'm kind of wondering why we didn't have legislation to make this change already. We've been talking about it now for several months. I don't know that we can make the presumption that the reorganization legislation would pass. And certainly there's lots of dialogue about other items that could be elevated to the deputy city manager level. That's just something. So I don't know whether there's a way to have parallel legislation going on, but the more practical question, I'll get to you in a second, David. The more practical question is, this is going to require, if we don't accept this, a reformatting at least of the city manager's office, but then it leaves the question of where does the financing, I guess the financing for the director of the Office of Environmental Policy goes back to the mayor's office, and the two staff person follow back to the mayor's office, because that's where they are now. Is that not right? City Manager Gerald, sorry.
I'm not sure where the funding is. It would move back to the Office of Environmental Policies where it should be if this doesn't move forward. And I hate to put the city attorney on the spot, but I see that he's on this meeting. I would just ask if he happens to know what the status of that legislation is, because it's going to require both a charter change as well as an ordinance to effectuate this.
Yes, sir. We got the request probably about a week and a half ago, and I've assigned that request to make the charter change, to draft the charter change legislation. I gave us 30 days to do that. So we're looking at right now probably the beginning of May for a draft for consideration by the council, along with appropriate adjustments to the code and et cetera for titles, salaries and everything else. But this particular change adds a title to the charter. So we need a charter change and a code change. So all that's being drafted, probably about 2 weeks right now. We'll have a draft ready for review.
And am I correct that even if it all happened right now and passed, charter amendments don't take effect for 50 some odd days after passage?
Yes, and there's some other peculiarities about a charter change that we'll have to address as well.
So my sense is that, and I'll get to you in a second, Ellie. My sense is that there's enough openness to this question that, and my sense from the committee is that we really shouldn't budget as though this were in effect at this point. And so my question to the finance director is, how much level of effort would it take to reconstruct the budget to change? I think it would affect both the city manager's presentation and the office of the mayor's office presentation, if I'm
So this budget in front of you is the mayor's proposed budget. It includes this change in it. It is no net cost to the city at all. But I will say that since this budget book is the support for ordinance you have on the budget. Any change to that ordinance would require an amendment from the council to change those numbers, and we would process it like any budget amendment if this change, this reorganization did not go ahead. So it would be in the form of an amendment.
So, colleagues on the Finance Committee, do we have a proposed amendment to the mayor's budget?
I'm not clear. The amendment would be to do what?
To reorganize the mayor's budget to not show these positions in the city manager's office and move them back to the office of the mayor where they reside now, if I'm correct.
No, they were residing in OEP.
Okay, so it would,
Separate office, 3 positions, and we have taken 1 position, the forester, and moved that to planning and zoning. So it would require changes to planning and zoning, changes to the city manager budget, and then reinstituting an OEP budget, which also impacts all the position control tables that you see, and put new pages in the budget book because we don't have an OEP in there right now. So it's not just, I mean, the numbers, it'll change 3 departments, not amounts, and then a lot of supporting pages for the budget book.
right.
So would the amendment be to move all references to OEP back to the original department, or?
That and take it out of city manager and take it out of planning and zoning.
We need to hear from the attorney.
Yes, and Ellie was waiting patiently also. Mr. Lyle?
Yes, sir. I would suggest, because we do have a charter change in preparation, maybe this portion of the budget could be tabled until such time as we have introduced appropriate charter change legislation on the code, because all of these kind of things are kind of happening at the same time. So you're probably getting something a little in advance of something else happening. But it appears to me, based on the history of this particular situation, that this is a long-standing change that has been asked of us, at least, to prepare something. And so maybe a table at this point, at least even to this portion of the city manager's budget and the attendant agency budgets, might be appropriate. So approving everything, but tabling a section until we can catch up with the rest of the council measures.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is come back at the end of the Finance Committee deliberations to take this up. I think it's clear that there's a couple different threads. Not everyone on the council, and we don't know because we don't have everyone here, is a guarantee to agree to this change. In addition, some members, and I think Alderwoman Finlayson, and this might be you, are saying, well, if we're going to do that, then I'd like to see other changes. And it just feels awkward to try to do that in the middle of the budget process. And I'm reminded that when I pulled up last year's budget book, because it was so much thicker than the budget book we received this year, I realized that when we pulled out all of the legislation, the reorganization legislation, this year's budget book is actually thicker than last year's budget book. So, you know, trying to do 2 things at one time, I think really complicates the process quite a bit, even if they're laudable goals, at least in the minds of some of us. So, Alderwoman Tierney has been waiting patiently to speak. Your mute's on, mute off.
I'm unmuted. It's actually irrelevant what I think, but I do agree with my colleague Alderman Savage on this. This probably is a good idea, but I think it has to be thought out, because if you currently look at the code and the responsibilities of the director of the Office of Environmental Policy, it's like 3 pages long of stuff that has, tasks, and And when we, yeah, this is what any charter amendment is a big deal. And that has to be looked at. And where are we going to draw the line of demarcation with resiliency effort versus the current responsibility of the Office of Environmental Policy? So to have that, again, convoluted in a budget is unfortunate. I just don't know the right way to do this. I mean, maybe that's a legal question because this is going to come up again and again and have a, you know, a sore reaction.
All right, so the city attorney made a suggestion, which is that we table this for now, but I don't think we can, there's no way that this will happen in time for the passage of the budget, and certainly not in time for this committee's recommendation to the council writ large on the budget. So I guess I'm looking for a sense of the committee, Alderwoman Finlayson and then Alderman Payon.
I have a question for City Manager Gerald. What is the downside, the danger of postponing this until after we complete the budget? Since it's cost, I think you said it was cost neutral. So it's not going to have an implication in the budget, or did I misunderstand that? So why couldn't we take this up after your reorganization, after we finish with the budget? And for, and I think you spoke to this, Chairman, Mr. Lyle suggested postponing it, but we'll be finished with the budget process before this goes through our legislative process. So
Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, I need to make a statement. I said it was cost neutral, but it slipped my mind that Racine Hodo, the position that she currently fills, used to be in watershed fund in 20. She's in the watershed fund, and in this proposal, she's half in the general fund, half in the watershed fund. So it does add to the general fund for half of her salary and benefits.
But I don't think that would change. So even if we changed it and reinstituted OEP in the budget, her actual duties are half general fund and half watershed. So that change was going to take place irrespective of the reorganization.
She does duties in both funds, and it's probably better shown half-half.
So I think the answer, Alderwoman Finlayson, is sort of a chicken and egg thing, right? Do we show it in the budget and then have to, and not have to change if it passes, or not show it in the budget, and if it does pass, then we have to make modifications in the budget? I think that's the only implications, right, Jody? So we'll have to do some things with the budget. If it's passed with an OEP, then we'll have to do some things in the budget to change it. Jody, you want to address that?
Yes, there's going to be, we're going to need to amend several departments. The 3 departments, we would have to amend appendices, at least one appendice. And then of course there's budget book pages that have to be switched out. Now, we would distribute those, but would bind them into the final budget book if that's how this turns out.
Well, I don't want to diminish your work because I know it's significant, but I would much rather us approve.
We'll do whatever's necessary to get it to where it needs to be.
Go ahead and finish, Sheila.
I would much rather us move forward with the way things are, and if we have to come back and make changes, we do that all the time. So,
all right. And Alderman Payon, I believe that is your sentiment as well.
Yeah, I already said all I have to say is nothing.
All right, so I'm not sure exactly how we move forward with this procedurally, but I think I guess it would be recommendation of the Finance Committee that the mayor's budget be amended to move back to the current status. And that would be a recommendation that would go into our report to the council. I would suggest that and we'll have to have a motion to say that. I would suggest that get out to the entirety of the council as soon as possible so they can be thinking about that. But I think also that implies that there will have to be a restructuring of the mayor's budget if the council at large agrees with this recommendation from the finance committee. So
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion, but it is our budget. This is in the hands of the council. So, but I will make the motion to restore OEM to its original capacity and all staff that goes in the appropriate places.
Is there a second?
Not OEM.
I'll second.
OEP.
OEP. All right, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it. All right, well.
Alderman Arnett, you're on mute again.
All right, is there anything else that we need to discuss with the city manager on the city manager's portion of the budget?
No, but I liked you better when you were on mute.
I liked it better when we didn't see your face. All right, we're now moving on to IT, is that correct?
MIT, right.
MIT, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And Brian, Brian is here. Mr.
How are we doing?
Good.
Hi there.
Do we
Brian, it's okay. You don't have to do the PowerPoint presentation.
We've got one. Julian's cooking it up for us now.
Oh, good.
And I will provide you guys copies of it after the fact, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
All right. Julian, let's go ahead and hop into slide 2, please. I'm sorry. All right, so our FY 2021 goals, and I'm going to do my best not to do what I hate, read these things to you guys. But we're really big on, getting rid of pen and paper processes and going to more automation. And a big part of the first goal listed here is to, become, no one's going to go paperless as much as we try, but to get more automated in our processes. And the subsequent slides will go into a little more detail on all this. We'd like to improve not only access to GIS data, but public knowledge of the availability of the GIS data. Efficiency and reliability of the data center, improve redundancy, smaller electrical and cooling needs by virtualization, smaller carbon footprint, those sorts of things. We are going to work on developing a plan to make city technology available to all citizens. And we've got some initiatives to further our network and device security and keep ourselves safe from breaches to the best of our ability. Next slide, please. So the first goal, increase productivity by reducing manual processes. Step one in this process is going to be to meet with department heads and division chiefs and prioritize their needs, and that will help us determine which modules in Munis and other pieces of software need the most attention. We've got a series of Munis modules that we own the rights to use and have not yet been implemented. So during this kind of question and answer process, we'd like to get to the bottom of which ones of these are going to meet the specific needs of the departments and get those rolled out in the coming fiscal year. Benchmarks are to get those module rollouts scheduled for at least 3 city departments or 4 Munis modules total as identified by the city departments. And the way we're going to measure ourselves is how many of these modules do we get rolled out, and how well are we achieving that goal of eliminating manual processes. Next slide, please. Our second goal is to improve public access to GIS data. We're working with city and county entities to allow the open data web portal and allow public access to maps and city services. Now, I have a statement from Sean that she provided me the other day that explains this far better than I ever could. And her statement goes as follows: the City of Annapolis MIT GIS team is working in collaboration with Anne Arundel County OIT GIS to provide citizens and business leaders an easy way to use GIS solutions that do not require them to know whether or not they're in the city or county. This is apparently a big problem for folks with Annapolis zip codes that aren't in the city proper. Seamless integration of data layers from each organization can be used to ease frustration and provide authoritative information. While this project is in the early stages, utility data is being shared into county applications, and county layers help power our initiative. So what all that means is basically through data sharing, we're going to be able to eliminate a lot of the questions and the confusion that the public has as far as accessing this data. And the second performance measure that you'll see there, item number 2, is we'd like to increase the number of website hits, work with the PIO. We'll leverage Ina, our webmaster, to get the simple fact that this data exists out there to drive up our hits. Next slide, please. Goal 3, to improve the efficiency and reliability of our data center. And that data centers, plural. We have a couple of them and several city buildings, but the main one is in City Hall. To use server virtualization to increase efficiency and reduce carbon input. Virtualization basically goes like this. You have racks full of servers with individual purposes that can be taken out of service and virtualized into one powerful server that could do the jobs of many smaller servers. That decreases your cooling needs, it decreases your overall electrical costs, and by shrinking that footprint, it also allows you to, say, make 2 of them so that they are redundant should one data center go through a disaster or an extended power outage or something like that. It improves our reliability. So benchmarks there is to condense 5 servers down into 1. And then our measure would be the actual number of servers virtualized over the course of the fiscal year. Next slide, please. So our 4th goal here has a lot to do with ADA compliance of primarily our websites, but the documents posted on there, the videos posted on there, our online programs and services. Visually impaired folks need to have access to this stuff. And we are working very hard to get there. Ina, our webmaster, is doing a heck of a lot of work to try to, at least at this stage, point us in the direction so that we can get there. As you know, our website's a big place, and there's a lot of documents and a lot of pages on there. So it's clearly not just a one-person job. So really what we want to do is move to educate, train, and provide the tools so that in the coming fiscal year, 100% of the content that's being posted to the website is ADA compliant. And then once we've gotten there, we can try to go back and retrofit some existing documents to get those compliant as well.
Brian, can I interrupt?
I'm sorry, Chairman.
Alderman Rodriguez is not here, but I'm sure he would make the point that it's not just ADA, it's also available to our citizens, Spanish-speaking citizens as well. Is that another thing that we could add to this set of objectives and benchmarks?
Yes, sir. I would bring that up with the webmaster, and we can absolutely talk about the viability of that and work that into this particular goal. Yes, sir.
Thank you. And the other comment I would make is a lot of the statements that you're giving us orally would really be good embellishments to the PowerPoint presentation you're giving us. So I'm wondering, when you get it to us, if you could just fill in some of those things. They're very, very valuable, and I'll use this to go back and look at it as we're doing our deliberations, as we will with the other departments.
Yes, sir. I'll expand it before I send it out to you. It'll take me a day or two, but I'll get it to you with some extra detail.
Yeah, I know you're rushing. You were rushing this because of Marcia's sterling presentation.
Oh, I didn't want. We did not want to be completely lapped by the Public Works Department, sir.
All right. Yes, Ellie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm following along. In the budget book, we have the section called performance measures, and he's reiterating exactly what is listed on page 51. So I'm not sure if he needs to provide anything more. I don't know. You can look at it.
I'm happy to have a follow-up discussion and provide any additional information that you guys require. No big deal.
What I've been doing, Ellie, is adding the PowerPoint presentation to the section behind each of the departments. So without objection, if Brian can do that.
Oh, okay.
That'd be helpful.
Okay, I'm following the performance measures section, but thanks.
Yep. All right.
Ross, I'll touch base. I'm sorry, Chairman. I'll touch base, and I'll fill in the gaps, and we'll get this updated.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can we please go to the next slide? All right, the fifth goal, and this is an ongoing goal year after year, day after day, to keep our information technology environment safe from ransomware and other breaches to the best of our ability. And a big part of that is education and training to stay on top of the security landscape and, to read, know what's going on with other municipalities and other places across the country and the world, what they're seeing and that sort of stuff. There's some technical things in here as far as improving some policy enforcement and things like that I'd rather not discuss in detail in an open forum. But from a broad view, we're going to, as we delve into education and training, you'll see that we've added a little bit of money to those budgets to allow folks to engage a little more thoroughly in their training and with their peers in their respective fields. And the PCs and servers joined to the domain. There's a myriad of security purposes and reasons for doing that behind the scenes. Again, not necessarily wanting to discuss details again in a public forum, but those are our benchmarks there. And then our performance measures are going to be the number of hours that we get our folks in front of other folks and learning about these sorts of things, and how we do on that particular venture as far as getting those things onto our newer domain. Next slide, please. So our long-term goals, starting the number one here in this list, starting back in the financial crisis, my predecessors, plural, took the request to stop spending money very seriously. And we went a very long time without replacement hardware out in the field. We had very old desktops, very old laptops, very, very old servers. And then once the reins got loosened a little bit, we kind of bought everything at once. And so that we're getting repeatedly smacked with this in 5, 6, and 7 year cycles. And one thing that we would like to do moving forward is to get a rotation going so that we're on a fixed schedule where we know which 100 PCs are getting replaced this year, the hardware, from a hardware perspective. There's no surprises. But to get there, we're going to, of course, be replacing things that have not yet necessarily reached 5 years old as we go through this, or things may be a little older as we implement this. But we'd like to get on a fixed rotation so we don't find ourselves with really, really old equipment or having to come to you guys and ask for a ton of money all at once to replace everything all at once. Number 2 is to develop and implement an enterprise asset management system. And this is a product from Tyler Technologies, our existing Munis system that allows to stay on top of a lot of the things that Marcia was talking about earlier today, sewer and water assets, things of that nature. It's a big project, but it's out there and it's going to need to be done. So we're going to be working with Public Works on that. Number 3 is to integrate that shared environment, as we talked about earlier. That's going to be a multi-year process, so that's why we included it here in our long-term goals. And of course, number 4 was also mentioned in the FY21 goals, because that is obviously going to be an ongoing effort as we move past FY21. And the number 5 is just also a continuation of one of our shorter-term goals, and that's to just continue to automate, continue to require less paper and less manual labor, and to continue to make these types of technological advances and services available to staff and citizens. Next slide, please.
Brian, can I ask you, can we go back? I wanted to ask you about number 1 and number 4, I think. I noticed you didn't mention iPads in there. And one of the facilities that would really be helpful, and maybe it's just a training on how to use an iPad, but it's very hard to flip back and forth between the Granicus schedule and then the pieces, particularly when we're looking at a piece of legislation and also looking at amendments, and we have to keep flipping back and forth. So I don't know whether that's a training issue or a hardware issue. I noticed that Alderman Savage has a different hardware where he can flip back and forth pretty easily. And maybe that is a training issue rather than a hardware issue.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think it's a little column A and a little column B. I think probably got a little bit newer iPad than you do, which is easily addressed. And then B, with newer iPads come newer versions of the operating system, which allow you to do cooler, neater, fancier things. So that's something that certainly can be addressed a heck of a lot sooner than FY22. So we'll talk a little more about that.
All right. And then I'm not sure I understand number 4. I'm not sure what that means.
So yeah, the 100% mobile and ADA compliant. So mobile compatibility means that the website will be fully responsive. We're about to embark on a redesign of the website, but that's always kind of out there in the distance as devices change, as the nature of the devices that we as human beings use. They change, and it's incumbent on our webmaster and our IT team to continue to test those sorts of devices and make the requisite changes to the website so that no matter what device that you go to Annapolis.gov on, you're getting a full experience. You're getting every feature that you would get should you be sitting at a desktop or looking at it on a laptop or what have you. So we kind of lumped in those goals with, as we push forward with ADA compliance, we're also looking at device compatibility and those sorts of things in the long term.
So,
device Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
You have this meeting until 3. Are you going to extend past 3 o'clock?
I don't know.
Because you have HR.
Yes.
You have HR to do. Okay. Do you know how long you're going to do that for?
Well, I'd like to see if we can get HR in, and I don't know how long Tricia needs. So
that's why I bring it up, so that everybody can be prepared and I can have Takia on staff.
Let me poll the committee. Sheila and Fred, what are your timelines?
I'm good for as long as we need to. I'd like to get through HR today if we can.
Fred?
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Let's try to get this over with.
So, yeah, so if we could do, Mr. City Attorney, if we could do another hour, I think that would be prudent.
Hour?
Well, half hour, but you know us. All right. So Brian, we interrupted. By devices, I assume you're talking about more powerful cell phones, or
Just the differences in the devices we use. I mean, from a cell phone to a tablet to a laptop to a desktop, they're coming out with these phones that are also tablets. They flip open, which just, you don't know what the future will bring. And so we're talking really about compatibility and the basically just enriching the experience of the website, regardless of the device that you use, would be the mobility, compliance, or available and compliant across platforms.
okay. All right. Thank you.
And Alderman Payon, I'm going to go hammer down. I'll get done really fast, man.
Okay.
Okay, next slide, please. So this is the overview that I'm sure you all have seen in the budget book. Just slid it in here. Does anybody need to take any extra time on this one, or do you want to go right on by?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, great. Next, please.
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, sure. No problem.
Yeah, no, this is great to have this in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, feel free if any questions about that to stop me. I'm going to try to cruise, but yeah, slow me down if we need to. Next slide, please, if everybody's okay with that one. So what we've done here, and again, this is my first rodeo, so we have outlined basically every change up and down in our three main accounts. Is this something that you guys want to do, or is this something, is this what we want to do, or is this too much detail for this meeting?
No, it's good.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, then as quickly as I can. Our overall non-salary and benefit budget is a total decrease of 16.3. We have defunded our PC support services for the police department as part of the reduction request that was put out there due to the economic impacts of what we're all going through right now. We, for a very long time, had a support staff contractual person that's stationed at APD. His name was Charles Carter. He unfortunately passed away in this past year, and we did not fill the position. We have been kind of maintaining, holding our own. And when the time came to make the decision of where to make the cut, we've been keeping our head above water with this. This seemed like the logical place to go. Pardon my phone, I apologize. So the next one is a $11,600 decrease from last year. We only run these aerial photographies every 3 years. Some other GIS interoperability servers that were no longer needed, and some consulting services for geographic information systems that were not needed. So that's everything that has come out. Our increases, the Adobe software licensing has changed. You can no longer buy outright Adobe software. You have to rent it. So basically what that means is, as our end users' technological needs are going to require newer versions than what we currently own, we are going to have to pay in the neighborhood of $180 per seat per year. So we just went ahead and asked for a little bit more money on that line item to cover the immediate need, and we will judge those needs as we go through the year and adjust accordingly. I mean, I think the majority of our folks are going to be fine in the versions that they're in, but you just don't know. There's going to be some people that do some bleeding edge stuff that are going to need that upgrade, and we're going to need to shell out some money on that. We've got our annual 3% increase for Granicus, which is every year. We've added some services, and we have annual increases in our Munis application maintenance contract, and there's $20,200 there. of an increase of almost 1,300 for the Munis system management. That's also a scheduled 5% increase. We added Tyler Technology product to help us with intrusion detection services this year. Already proven itself to be extremely valuable. That's an additional $22,000 per year. The $100 for an additional pictometry license, that's not an additional license, that's just your annual 4% increase. Next slide, please. And please stop me if there's any questions about any of these line items. I'm just trying to go a little quickly so we can get everybody in. Our track it maintenance has an annual increase. This is a ballpark percentage increase. We have had a hard time actually getting a hard number for FY21. But we feel like that's a pretty safe number. $4,700 for cloud backup. Our data sets grow every day. And in order to make sure that we've got enough budgeted to continue to back up the city's data, we had to increase that line item. $8,500 was accidentally left out of last year's budget. We pay that every year. So that's a line item that has been in years past, but was not in last year. We had to put that back in. $2,000 for document shredding services. $7,500 additional for VMware support maintenance. This is our virtualization initiative. As more servers get moved over, they're going to need to be covered by these support and maintenance contracts. $150 for Amazon Prime membership. That is very, very hopefully upcoming. We've got a lot of enthusiasm for that. That's a citywide Prime membership. We're adding a public-facing GIS server, which is going to be cloud-based. That's roughly $300 and change per year. That's that line item. We have started paying that this year. That's why it's not an enhancement. Some additional administrative tools for GIS. That's for our GIS coordinator and technician to do some things that they'd like to be able to do. Our $8,800 increase for ADA compliance. We've contracted with a company to assist us in meeting our goals with that. That's something that we've also launched this year and will be a continuing item for next year. Next slide, please. That's everything I've got for contractual services changes from stem to stern. Dues and memberships, we're going to pick up a whopping $5 worth of MSJIC membership increases for the GIS specialists and $195 to pick up the tab for the GIS coordinators ERISA membership. These are the sorts of things we talked about in our goals where we really want our folks involved in the communities of specialists and professionals to learn and share information with these people around them that share their fields. And I just feel personally that's extremely important to do. Next slide, please. This slide also falls in with that same theory of involvement and training and education. We've had people paying out of pocket to go to these things, which I don't really think is right. So we're going to go ahead and cover the $50 to go to the Maryland Digital Government Summit for our webmaster. The Esri and all this Esri stuff that you're seeing, this is GIS stuff. So we're just covering this trip. They are bringing so much value back from these conferences that we'd like to be able to cover this for them because it's the city and the other departments across the city working with our GIS and webmaster folks that are reaping the benefits of these conferences. And I just feel pretty strongly, we as a department feel pretty strongly that they shouldn't have to be paying for this themselves. And the webmaster going to a Civic Plus conference. This is she uses message boards and email lists to interact with her peers in the webmaster community multiple times a day, every day. And for her to be amongst these fellow professionals and to go to these seminars and classes during this conference is truly invaluable. And then the Tyler Connect conference. And for those of you who don't know what that is a week-long, the better part of a week. I believe it's like 4 days, 5 days. that they go to a conference, they talk about everything that is our enterprise ERP solution, all the dealings that we have with Tyler Technologies. And they get to learn about new products. They get to attend seminars and classes and immerse themselves for the better part of a week in these Tyler products. And I find that to be extremely important as well. And if there's no questions there, I'd like the next slide, please. Enhancement requests. I felt this could bear mentioning, even though the likelihood of, I understand that these coming to any kind of fruition are low, but what we've asked for is an additional.
Brian, can I interrupt?
Yes, sir.
All of the things in the preceding slides are in your 21 budget?
Yes, sir. None of those were enhancements. Those were all continuing items, sir.
I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I'll be real quick with the enhancement request. We asked for $10,000 to do remediation, document remediation. The second line item is a training and education package for not only our people in MIT, but for end users in other departments across the city for unused Munis modules and to better use the stuff that we're already using better, to put it in an extremely simple way. The third line item, client access licenses, that would allow us to take every city employee, from an equipment operator to the city manager, make sure that they have a license so that we could start working on some single sign-on initiatives to simplify our password situation. And there's additional security pieces. I'm trying to explain this without, again, giving away the farm here. There's some immediate security, well, not immediate, but some definite security benefits to this on an enterprise level that I don't want to discuss specifics of, but I'd be absolutely willing to talk about offline with anyone that's interested. We had also asked for an overtime budget. We have 4 non-exempt employees that are extremely generous about working beyond their scheduled 35 hours, and they're doing so for comp time. The problem with comp time is that they have to eventually take it. And when you're staffed in the way that we are staffed, and every member of the team is so important on a day-to-day basis, allowing them to take that comp time in addition to the vacation time that they've rightly earned gets to be a little unwieldy. I mean, we make it work, but it would be to me, it would make a lot more sense to add a very, very small overtime allowance to be able to compensate these 4 non-exempt employees for the extra work they do immediately and not make them try to shoehorn comp time into what they're trying to do and what they're doing so well for the city. Next page, please. The G Suite license speaks for itself. That additional 18,000, which would be a year over year, that would be ongoing. That's not a one-time cost. Would allow us to give every single city employee, again, from top to bottom, a city email account. This would allow better, easier access to employee self-service. We spend a lot of time helping people get logged into employee self-serve. If they had city emails that we could bind to those accounts, it would be a lot easier for them to take care of themselves. And there's some other things down the road that would, some finance projects that I think that would help tremendously. We're overdue for a strategic plan is the next bullet item. Our existing one that we have on file is coming up on 10 years old. That's something that I just kind of wanted to start asking for to see how that's going to go. But yeah, I just wanted to put it out there on the radar that that's something that's going to need to get done at some point. We wanted to add our GIS technician in addition to our GIS coordinator to go to that annual Esri conference. Again, you guys have already heard me talk about how I want folks to get involved and to learn. So. And then the last thing is we have an awful lot of hard drives, like a lot. hard drives that need to be destroyed. And so that's that line item. It would be just a small amount to go ahead and destroy those, through a certified shredding company, destruction company, that would give you a piece of paper with the serial number and everything from every hard drive to certify that it has been destroyed, and they didn't just take it into the woods and dump it in a hole. Next slide, please. And that's about it. We're dedicated to delivering high quality technology-based services, and we try to do it in a cost-effective manner. And I feel like most people will agree that all of our folks here at MIT really enjoy interacting with everybody and provide pretty good customer service. The middle one's the big one. Municipalities are coming up time and time again as targets of cybercrime, sometimes from nation states even. I mean, not just these guys that want to hold your data for ransom, but some foreign countries are really interested in mining data out of even smaller municipalities. And to stay on top of this, it requires training, it requires contractual services from outside vendors, it requires staying on top of our hardware situation to continue to keep our end users safe, to keep our data safe, and to not make the newspaper for all the wrong reasons. So I hope we can continue to give you the things that you've come to expect from us, and roll out some of these new features and new projects to make the city even more efficient. And I appreciate y'all's time.
Okay, Alderwoman Finlayson.
Thank you. Brian, maybe not frequently, but I've heard about municipalities whose systems have been hacked, for lack of a better description, for ransom. And I mean large amounts of money, holding data hostage. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. That's ransomware. That's what the city of Baltimore went through.
And are we at risk? What is our, liability, or what is the opportunity for us to be? We don't have millions of dollars to pay somebody rent, or hundreds of thousands of dollars even to pay someone ransom for our data.
That's why it's very important to keep your IT department well funded, Alderwoman Finlayson. No, there are no guarantees when it comes to cybersecurity. We do our best, and we have a team of people that are extremely dedicated to keeping our data safe. We take a layered approach. I would love to sit here and tell you that it isn't.
I am going to.
Yeah, we are not going into.
Thank you. That's for executive session, and we'll have to stop it right there. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. No technical detail, but no.
I wasn't going to ask for anything confidential. I mean, really. So
no.
okay.
So no. What I will say is this: there's no foolproof plan, but we do our best, and that's why we ask for the funding that we ask for, and the positions that we ask for, so that we can continue to do our best to.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did we lose Alderman Payon? Appears we have. Well, first of all, Brian, I want to thank you, because it does seem to me we made a very good choice in our new director for MIT, and this was a very thorough presentation. And along with my comment to Marcia earlier in the morning, I think these are really a great value added to the previous Finance Committee sessions. I look forward to getting your PowerPoint with some of the embellishments we talked about to add to the document, but very valuable input, and we thank you for that.
Yes, sir. No problem. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Ellie? Mute's on. Mute's on. Take your mute off.
Sorry. I don't know what to call it. The thing that you've given employees, the lessons, the online lessons on security, et cetera, that.
Yes, ma'am. The online security training.
That. Where you're okay covering that in your budget? I wasn't sure what bucket of money that comes from, that kind of thing, because it would be nice to have more of those.
Yes, ma'am. We're planning on continuing that, and that was very generously funded by the Emergency Management Department.
Oh, okay. So that's in Kevin's budget.
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I mean, Director Simmons. Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, you're muted.
Rob, did you want to say something? I heard somebody else want to speak.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Brian.
No problem.
Does seem we've lost Alderman Payam.
I have absolutely no doubt that Julian's in.
Yes, I just spoke to him. He's trying to get back on now.
Okay. All right. We're definitely running out of time. I think it's time to hear from HR.
Okay, guys. Thank you. I'm going to go try to help Fred. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, you're on.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. I'll respond to you about the mask when I get off.
I know we're really on it. We're trying.
Okay.
Trying to really utilize our staff that are non-essential and do whatever we can to get more of these done. I've got my dining room table. I've got 6 of them done and 14 more cut out. So.
Well, excellent. I've got lots more fabric, and as soon as the elastic comes in, hopefully today or tomorrow, I'll be able to get that out to you.
Well, I've been using very long shoelaces instead of elastic because I can't.
Oh, good.
It's all working out. It's working out.
We're talking about the mask makers, you guys, if you're not aware.
Yeah, but
Ellie.
And Ellie's been really churning them out, which is great.
As she has, absolutely.
Yeah, we just want to look out for our employees any way we can, and this is one small way, but it's a very important way. Okay, so I sent some information I think Julian has. I did my PowerPoint. I saw the message about noon, and I used the time you've already spoken to try and at least get on the map with the PowerPoint. But before that, I sent detail on my budget as well as my performance standards, my performance measures rather. I'm happy to talk through all of them. We'll see what Julian pulls up. It's also in your budget book. I'm on page 50 for performance measures, which the PowerPoint essentially has got all that in there. Page 50 is my performance measures, page 79.
Tricia, what's the name of the doc you sent? Which doc is it?
It's the.
I sent an email.
Yeah, what's the name of the document though?
Oh, it's the one to pull up first is the PowerPoint, which is Human Resources FY21.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. There we go. Okay, so that's just my title page. We can move to the next slide. So
wait a minute. Does this mean your presentation is all wet?
It is. You can cross for your benefit. You can either look at that as rainy day or tears. So I'm not going to cry over this. I'm going to just, reiterate what we're about. And I think you know us well. We have a charter and code mandates that we need to make sure we follow, and we do that and more, I feel. So we are responsible for recruitment, employee appointments, promotions, recruitment, retention. We have an exit interview process that we're part of as well. Benefits and wellness, which is a really important staple of what we do. We are really very focused on how to be involved in cost containment around that. We meet regularly with our insurance brokers, and we're always monitoring the value of what our vendors are doing for our employees. And we take employee feedback very seriously. We do classification and compensation. We're still making our way through the Evergreen study, and I see that there were some enhancement requests that were related to that as well. We do performance and training. We are going to this coming year really try to do training on a shoestring, because I hate to say that, it's like, you know, flying coach. And so we're gonna try to really expand on offerings that are really more oriented to freebies and maybe some in-house. I've had some conversations with City Attorney Lyles about that as well. We are really very careful about how we do personnel records management from both the confidentiality and security standpoint as well. That's always evolving in terms of records retention and availability. We deal with separations in every form, including retirements. We do employee and labor relations. And as you know, we were rather successful in negotiating a 4-year agreement. Unfortunately, we're trying to enter into some discussions now to deal with a very unanticipated outcome for this coming year. So just know that we're on it, and we try to approach both of those responsibilities with great compassion and awareness, and you know, try to take in all kinds of other considerations before ever having to go there. We also do support and staff the Civil Service Board, the Public Safety Disability Retirement Board, which meets very infrequently. All that board is doing is, if there is somebody that is turned down for a disability retirement, they have the right to appeal it to that board. And we have very infrequent action there. And we also do staff support for the Human Relations Commission.
Can anybody hear me finally?
Yes.
Yes, Fred, we hear you.
It's the third time today. I just got cut out the third time today.
Sorry.
That one took long to get back, come back from.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
Since you are interrupted, I wanted to mention how much I've valued working with you on the Police and Fire Retirement Commission. And also hope when we get into the presentation that we will get into this whole risk management discussion, because I think that's an important thing that was initiated a little while ago, and I've kind of lost track of. So I think it's important to hear more about that.
Well, as you know, I personally sit on the union negotiating team and on the commission, the Police and Fire Retirement Plan Commission. I think, and the risk management policy group has not, I haven't seen it really get its grounding yet, but I can tell you that since Corey Bradley has come on board, it's been a really good working relationship, a lot of understanding. I like to approach HR work from a business perspective, which is that I don't just stay in my lane. I'd like to really understand the impact of policy. You know, it doesn't just end at my particular role. I like to know how it integrates with financial concerns and then just practical operational concerns. And I think in the city, I've been very fortunate to be able to be a part of those team efforts to resolve some of those issues. And Corey's a great addition to the city staff. The Human Resources Division is also, we're very actively recruiting. We're trying to get highly qualified and diverse applicants. We do so with various methods. We really try to have not just a good interactive workforce, which is something I think has shown, and you can see it in the way we've been able to do emergency management work to address the COVID concerns as it impacts our population, both our employee population and our population served. But we try to make sure that what we're offering through our benefits plans and our relationships is able to have a competitive and a comprehensive benefit plan so that it's really more in tune with what our employee population wants and needs. And we try to provide ongoing education learning opportunities. You know, for us, staffing has impacted how active we've been with our training, and of course our budget has been a part of that too. You'll see that later on I asked for a little bit more money for my own staff to be able to participate in training. It's a very modest amount of money for 7 people. And we are also trying to ensure that we have a safe and equitable work environment for all employees. That's our piece of that is maybe not always obvious because we were talking about capital projects and things like that have a lot to do with the work environment. But I think we do that in the way that we interact and manage issues around employees who have physical and other needs that impact their ability to work. And so we've been, focused on reasonable accommodations and providing the appropriate benefits to individuals. And we would definitely see it ramped up now with trying to respond to what the Families First Coronavirus Act is expecting of us and how to integrate that with our other benefit programs and just the whole exercise that we've recently gone through with keeping city operating. Now people that used to be quasi-essential or non-essential are now essential because we're not closing it's not like a snowstorm and we've closed the doors. We are open for business and we're doing so creatively and with a great deal of involvement. We've been fantastic teams, between MIT and HR in trying to assist the departments with teleworking and getting people set up in that manner, and also just making sure that the communications are flowing and we're able to keep track of each other. Okay, the next slide. So that's basically our functions broken down only into 3 categories. It could be more expansive than this. I'm just going to sort of lump it. So we're pretty much employee services, benefits and retirement, and then employee and labor relations. There's a lot fitting in each of those buckets, but that sums us up pretty quickly. Next slide. All right, so our responsibilities, we recruit, we examine, we provide lists of applicants to appointing authorities, we administer entrance and promotional exams, prepare eligible lists or, people that have applied for positions, and assist with any advice and guidance and direct involvement in public safety, hiring and promotion. We are responsible for the class and comp plan. We develop and administer all employee benefits to employees and retirees, medical, dental, vision, prescription drug, health savings accounts, VIVA and OPEB, which is our non-VIVA retiree health plan, employee assistance program, core and voluntary life, short-term, long-term disability, deferred comp, pension and recruitment, retirement programs, medical, dependent care, flexible spending accounts, fitness for duty, credit union, and leave, annual sick, personal, and now FFCRA. Next slide, please. We also coordinate the performance management program for all city employees. We oversee the disciplinary program and grievance and appeal process under union and service provisions. We assist the chief labor negotiator, which under the code now, because we're a division rather than a department, it's the city manager. And so we have 4 bargaining units that we bargain with, and we administer police, fire, trades, and clerical union contracts. If our real salt is anything in HR, it's that we spend a lot of time when we answer any question that we have to integrate and answer with, okay, what's state law, what's federal law, what's city ordinance, what's our policy procedures manual, and what's in the bargaining unit contract that may be affecting that decision. So we also look at quality of life mandates. We look at fair labor standards. I mean, we've got DOL, Department of Labor regulations. We've got family medical leave. We've got Title VII. We've got substance abuse regulations. We've got disability laws, privacy and equal employment opportunity laws that impact what we do, as well as our rules and regulations. We must make sure that we are fostering the administration's goals and objectives through the training that we deliver. We are using the MUNIS system for human resources, HRIS work, and there's a lot of change and development that goes into making that work well and making sure that people get paychecks that are accurate based on that. And we also use the applicant management module, which we're in the process of expanding our use of. We did what they call an early adopters with MUNIS. So when you're an early adopter, you get all the bugs along with the benefits. And so we spent a lot of time working through that, including the applicant management module, which we're hoping will help us meet our goals in improving the way we do recruitment and selection. We provide support, as already mentioned, to the Civil Service Board, Disability Retirement Board, Human Relations Commission, and I've already mentioned the about the commissions and the benefits group. We also, excuse me. We also have somebody that serves on our employee benefits group, and that group has been encouraged to provide us feedback through their committee work on our benefit programs and have influenced some of the decisions we've made there. There's an employee recognition committee, which you know has helped create and provide nominations, review nominations for Employee of the Month and then Employee of the Year. We get to celebrate that at our holiday party at the end of the year. And there's an employee feedback committee as well.
Trish, you mentioned FFCRA. What is that?
That's the Families First Coronavirus Act. So what we are implementing now is what's coming. If you're part of the inundation of what's happening at the federal level with the COVID influences, as it affects employees, is that we are expected as an employer to provide 10 days of paid sick leave over and above what an employee has if they meet one of 6 different categories. And there's 2 different pay levels associated with it. If you have personally been affected by COVID, meaning you've been exposed or you have symptoms, you don't know yet if you're positive, but you're quarantined until you get a test result, or if you have a positive test result, or if you've been exposed and you need to be quarantined because of a potential exposure. Those categories, you get full payment for your sick leave. If you're the caregiver of someone, or you are taking care of your child who's 18 or under, and because their daycare has been canceled or because their school is not open, they can receive, it's called it's an extension. They're provided the opportunity to use this sick leave at 2/3 pay. Those 3 categories at 2/3 pay, and then later, there's another element of the act that if somebody it's an extension to the Family Medical Leave Act. So essentially, anybody that still is responsible for the care of their child to the cancellation of daycare or the cancellation of school, they can receive up to 10 additional weeks of pay at 2/3, and we keep them employed and we pay them through this act. Now the challenge is private companies are allowed to then take a payroll tax reduction to recover their expense for that. Public sector has not been given that benefit. So we are still tracking all of that because we don't know if maybe under another provision we may benefit for some reimbursement. That remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, things are changing at the federal level so quickly. We just have to keep paying attention. So I must say, a lot of my time has really gone to try keep track of the changes that are happening at the state level and at the federal level that are affecting our employees, that are affecting their access, that are affecting their their benefit structure. So we just, it was effective April 1st. So we had 1 day in the pay period that's just closed out to cover that. And now we're into the, we're finishing up the second pay period. We also have a really good, robust system built here around making sure that OEM is notified. So there's a protocol so that any employee that we think is falling into any one of these categories, any potential exposure, any symptoms, anything, we are making sure that the reporting is going to OEM so that they run through the list of questions. They connect them to the Department of Health as well and are getting consultation with the Department of Health as to whether they have gone through what they need to get medical attention and then get a test. And then when we get all these results, then HR's informed, OEM informs HR. So we're trying to get everybody on board with this so that we know what's happening and to whom, and we can give them the right benefits and we can give them the right attention, because their health is just so important to us. And then what I try to do is stay in touch with the employees so they know that we're here for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide. Okay, so my performance measures there's 4 of them. These are the first 2. So we ensure that the city workforce is highly qualified and diverse. So I've identified sources for reaching out for qualified and diverse candidates, including professional associations and alumni associations. So what we do there is, with some positions, there are just good outlets. A lot of times we are in conversation with departments and we utilize their professional memberships to do outreach to people that are in the specific areas of their field, as a way to extend just normal postings. And so we also know that there are, and have really done a lot of research to make sure we've gone after professional associations and alumni associations that are for interest groups. And they may be minority groups, they may be women, say women engineers, for example, and we make sure that we utilize those as well. And so we are expanding our social media outlets. We develop relationships over time with different organizations where they're on our mailing list. And then we also try to increase our city jobs on electronic platforms. And so most recruitment these days, it's the old days of putting things in a newspaper, they're done. Everything's on a job board that's a website. And so we utilize them quite a bit. Our next performance measure is to recruit, retain, and engage employees through competitive benefits programs. I think I've talked quite a bit about that already, but we meet with our broker at least quarterly, and we make sure we go through extensive evaluations of our cost data, and we reevaluate all the support that we get with our vendors, and we change them if they're not performing. And so what's been going on lately is cost containment of our benefits programs is just paramount for us. And so this year we were able to do what we call a holiday. So we were able to allow employees to have no premiums for, oh gosh, I think it was 7 pay periods. Is that right, Jody? 7? And so that's significant. Some of it's luck, because all of our insurance costs are driven by experience a lot of times, but we have been doing a lot of other efforts for cost containment. We're getting ready this coming year to enter into a rather interesting prescription drug cost containment watchdog relationship. And we have every reason to expect a significant amount of savings by entering into this this agreement. We have determined that about 40% of our health costs, because medical and RX are tied together, is prescription drug costs. And so this this group will watchdog it. We'll look at, there's a number of things that happen that contribute to cost in the RX field. And some of it is just like automatic renewals of mail order prescriptions, or, people don't cancel things when they're not working. They just keep issuing them, and there's no reason for that. There's also some significant ways that drug companies have increased costs with some designer drugs and some things that aren't really necessary. What we found is that some things become changes in the formulary because they add something simple to it and now takes it out of the category it was in. And now it's way more expensive because they have just like maybe just added one thing, something that is pretty common, and those individual drugs by themselves would not be so expensive, but combined is now significantly increased. So this watchdog will go after those things. Will go after subsidies from the drug companies themselves to take some of these. I'm just blank space here. Anyway, the drugs that are in the high formulary category. So that's what we're doing. We're also looking at separating out our 65 and above retiree health recipients so that it's better for them. That it's a true Medicare wrap, so that those individuals are not paying for any out-of-pocket expenses and still getting the same value of that, and it'll help reduce our costs for active employees because our expense there is on our reinsurance side. So we're doing some really specific things there. And then we participate in the local government personnel association that issues a survey every year that tracks both salaries and does benchmark analysis of what jobs are paid, but also benefits. So we have the ability to do that. And I stay active in professional associations of public employers so that I have access to what my colleagues know them by name, so that I can call them up and get the kind of information necessary to drill down on that. Next slide, please. Ensure employees and retirees are satisfied with access to benefits. We track inquiries for service from our employees and retirees so that we're looking at if we have any errors, we correct them quickly. If somebody doesn't have, for some reason, they go and they say their doctor says, well, I'm sorry, but your child's not on your insurance. Oh, wait, that just makes us a little crazy, and we try to resolve those problems immediately. So the other performance measure we have is ensuring the city workforce is well-trained in best practices and latest technology. So we evaluate our compliance requirements and make sure that those are priorities. And like I said, we're looking for low cost and free sources of education. We just entered into a system for this year for open enrollment. We use this platform, which is called Employee Navigator. And within that, we should also be able to use that. We're developing this, but we're trying to use that platform to push out to people sources for training, so that like self-paced learning and that kind of thing is going to be more available to them. All right, next one. So I'm going to ask after this one for Julian to bring up my detail, but you'll see that I don't have any enhancement requests. I'm not asking for anything over than what I was given before. The finance division department has done some budget cuts to our request based on past spending, so we'll stay within our lane. We are asking for minor increases that are only directly related to what we know vendors are going to charge us this coming year. We're going to have some cost increases. So we've accounted for that. And last year I did not ask for additional monies, and I got 2 more staff people. I'm very happy to say that EJ is a full-time employee, and she's no longer a student intern. And since Claudia's come, we want to make sure that Claudia is also included in training. And we have an opportunity this year, COVID willing, that there's a international HR conference that's going to be held in Baltimore. So more of us can get to that and get credits to maintain our credentials. So we are credentialed, and we are required to have training hours. We try to make them as much as possible through free webinars and do so. But sometimes you got to go. You got to go somewhere and physically receive the training, and we're hoping to do that this year. So, Julian, if you'll bring up my spreadsheet. I'm sorry, I went quickly. Were there any questions?
I think you were quite thorough. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Tricia, are these documents pages 80 and 81?
Yeah, 80 and 81. 81 is the budget summary. So this goes with the budget summary.
Okay.
So this is, I mean, you can't ask for more detail than this. I'm not a big budget. I'm pretty simple. But lines on page 81, salaries is lines 5 through 9. Can you scroll up to the top, Julian? There we go. So 5 through 9 matches salaries. So if you were to add them up, that's going to be the 921, 900. So you'll see in line 9, this is where I've asked for an increase of $5,600. It's only due to increased medical costs from a couple of our vendors. And that's all it takes, because what we do, we do the employee physicals, both the psychologicals and the medicals for police and fire. Police, fire, and CDL holders in the city. We do physical exams for, those are required. And then for police, they're required under the Maryland Correctional and Police Training Commission standards to have psychological evaluations. So we pay for them as well. This includes our independent medical evaluations when people are evaluated for retirement or in order to determine if they're able to return to their job, if they're permanently impacted or there is an ability for a department head to ask for an independent medical evaluation to determine if somebody's capable of performing the duties of their position. And we're very careful to manage costs around that. If we have a workers' comp claim going on with someone, we will do our best to utilize the independent medicals that are done under the workers' comp, paid under the self-insurance fund. So I'm really careful in how I manage that. The other cost that's in there, no, I think I already mentioned CDL. So that's what that's for. We reduced line 15, contract services. So lines 13 through 19 are all included under contract services. So what we've done is, yes, Fred?
Yeah, I've got vastly different numbers for contractual services on page 81 versus what I'm looking at right now in the
lines 15 through 19 are all covered under contractual services.
Well, that's $82,000 according to this, yet I'm looking at page 81 and it says 54,200.
Because what you're doing is you're adding up line 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, that comes to 74,500 or so.
Fred, are you looking at the third column that says mayor's submission?
No, I don't think so.
So again, okay, baseline from last year. All right.
No, mayor's submission.
Column G.
37, 38, 43. Okay. Wait, 47, 48. Okay.
Good.
So it's $54,200. I've got it.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
let me ask you, although that is down from last year, it's still 20 to 25% higher than it was in 2019. Why is it so much higher?
You're looking at 2019?
Yeah, page 81 of the budget book, fiscal year 2019.
Well, one thing that we did is we put money into, so we could deal with implicit bias training. So we put more money in for that. We were also put money in for doing entrance level testing for the fire department, which they had only focused on doing the hiring of laterals for a long time.
Okay.
Tricia, I think Alderman Payon is looking at the total on page 81, the total expenditures from fiscal year 2019 to 21 proposed.
Oh, okay. I'm not looking at the budget book. I'm looking at my spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's where I see the 20% increase, right, Alderman Payon?
Yeah.
20%?
Between 20 and 25.
Oh.
Actually went up dramatically last year. It was almost 75,000.
That's some of that was some, and they had extra salaries in there. Remember, she said EJ went to full time. And what did we do with Claudia? And we got some upgrades too. There were 2 upgrades.
Yes, yes, there were three grade changes.
And so a lot of those.
That comes under contractual services?
No.
Oh, AJ was contractual until recently, right? So her salary.
Correct.
Part-time contractual, she went full-time civil service, and 3 other employees had upgrades.
Oh.
The main increase is your other professional services in 19.
Yeah, and again, we really went after doing implicit bias training and to be more robust there. And as you may remember, we gave up a lot of money in order to help MIT get an analyst. And we didn't get it back. And we, that got reassessed in the interim. And so that's part of the explanation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Tricia, may I ask, since there's a brief lull, do police and fire pay HR for their exams, or do you pay for their exams? Physical exams and psychological exams?
We pay for them. We pay for them. What we don't cover is entry-level testing, written tests for police entry. We do for fire, but police they wanted to adopt something called POST, which was way more expensive than what we had in the past. So they said, don't worry about it. We can cover that expense. And They have been.
Tricia, was any of that the English proficiency as well?
Yes, we were given $15,000. That was the LEP money, Limited English Proficiency Program. And so you'll see, thank you for reminding me, Katie. So that was just added to our budget, although we're not really responsible for managing that program directly. We are hosting the funding for that. And so there's an adjustment in there. You'll see in the comment section that the LEP was originally in there at 15. It's been reduced by 5,000 from the year before. So that's part of the cut. Thanks for that reminder, Katie. Should I keep going?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll keep going. All right, so we, down in contract services, I explained that that's just a reduction from fire testing that we won't be doing. So down in other professional services, that's a change from what we did in FY20 and what we repeated as our submission of $17,100. But part of that is moving $4,000 of that, which we'd pay for advertising, out of this section. Now we're just making sure all of advertising is down in the advertising section. So that went from 1,000 to 5,000 because of that $4,000 move. Again, the LEP reduction of 5,000, and then we gave up 8,100 out of this, which was our 10% reduction, asked for by the city manager to help balance an anticipated shortfall next year. Just our small piece of it. And then the other reduction we took was in supplies. That's about $7,500 less.
Okay.
And we asked for the increase in training and education. That's training and education for our staff. So that's staff development. So that went from 2,500 to 4,000. And oops. Yep. So that's good. And everything else is the same. Any questions?
Any members, any questions on this information? I appreciate the level of detail. It helps us understand. I'm sure we're going to be concerned with all departments, like your supply cut is significant. I hope we can all accomplish this belt tightening.
No, we'll just buy our paper now, huh?
Right, right. All right. Was there another part of the presentation?
Well, it was just my performance. I had another page that was my performance standards, but I incorporated that all into the PowerPoint.
Okay. Well, again, very thorough presentation. I thank you for that. And it was nice to get that line item detail. That was helpful to understand what's going on within the big numbers. Any other questions from the committee?
No, I think we're right on track for the afternoon session, are we not?
Well, we're an hour over, but we took the beginning part to take care of some legislation and transfers. So
yes.
I really appreciate everybody sticking with this. Tomorrow morning is going to be another big day because we have two big departments. But overall, I hope my committee members share with me an appreciation for how the departments have taken seriously the format that we laid out. And I think even gone beyond that. I'm going to be happy to get all of these things printed and added to my budget book, but I think this has been a very good exercise. So thank you, Tricia, and certainly thanks to all of your predecessors. Looks like we're almost at 4 o'clock. Is there any other business before the committee, or shall we adjourn? I know I'm tired. This has been a long day.
Well, I concur with your comments about the work that everyone has done, so thank you. And I'm waiting for Fred to make the motion, and if he doesn't, I will.
It's like he's off again.
Okay, then I move that we adjourn.
I second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That's Fred.
When he gets back on, we'll be gone.